fire. Everybody say flow fire, flow fire, flow fire. Everybody say flow fire, flow fire, flow fire. Feed your soul, women of fire, achieving goals. Women of fire, learn control. Women of fire, shine and grow with flow fire.
A black woman creating a seat at the table, unapologetically and creatively with grace, Miss Nicole Clarke
Aw.
Springer.
Hey, Florence Walker Harris. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm happy to be here.
I am so glad. Thank you. Thank you for participating in our Woman of Fire episode and series. First things first. Okay, let me break this down.
Okay,
A
what do you want
daughter, a wife, a mother, a student, a dancer, a choreographer, a boss, because you were always a boss,
to?
and then an artistic director for
Yeah.
deeply rooted theater. Tell us more a little bit about each one of those if you want to, or tell
Hmm.
us about where you are right now.
Oh, well, I was a student and studied with Indianapolis Ballet Theater for throughout my beginning of my studies with
Yeah,
Joliet Ballet Society, and we would train with Indianapolis Ballet Theater, and I ended up at Butler University, where I
right.
graduated from there, and decided that I was going to go to New York, where I graduated. And a friend of mine convinced me to take a class. He was like, "Well, before you leave, just come take a class." Because I was always taking classes everywhere, trying to keep my body in training and things like that. And he's like, "There's this company looking for apprentices," and I'm like, "I'm not interested. I'll just go take it as a class." And I remember being in that studio, and I've never worked so hard in my life. I remember being covered from head to toe, just sweat. And I was standing behind this man who's 6'7", and his arms seemed to reach from one side of the studio to the other. And his spirit and his voice in my head told me, "You're never leaving his side." And that was founder and artistic director Kevin Iger Jeff for Deeply Rooted Dance Theater, of
Wow.
which I am now the artistic director of. So
Right.
I went
Right.
through their summer intensive, their apprentice in their company, and became dance education director. And then now I'm artistic director, the second and only female in person to do so. I was the second female to choreograph on the company ever. Before me was Crystal Hall Glass. And so
Mhm.
I followed her footsteps, and we were the only two allowed to, set of work on the company. And my mother, I have two daughters, Sophia Renee Springer and Sydney Nicole.
How old are they?
Oh God. Sophie is 14 years old, and Sydney is 11. Yes.
11. And
Yes.
so, do any of them follow in your footsteps? Have they caught the creative dance bug?
You know what? They both. Sydney's a choreographer. She just don't want to admit it. She doesn't want to dance anymore, but it's gonna come up, sometime. But
Yeah.
Sophie loves dance. She does. She loves to dance. She has the bug. Sydney is my artist.
Before you had Sophie, because I know you taught students for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's kind of how we met. But what would you have told her then that you would tell her differently now, being a mother?
Well, it's so funny. I fired Sophie when she was 7. I ended up rehiring her. I made me, but I cut her.
Oh
I
my
cut her
God.
from a ballet, and she's actually she's taught me how to provide more space for my students and my dancers. That was a moment, because as you know, I have always been
Yes.
I'm the hired gun, I'm the tyrant, I'm the let's get it done, I'm the pusher. And at that time, in an effort not to appear as if, because I was the main choreographer, that I was, there was some nepotism going on, and I was playing favorites. I was like, well, she's not cutting it. I told him, it's gonna be like a real audition. And by the time I needed her to get it, she didn't get it. And so Tracy Franklin, and looked at me and was like, "Are you serious? Do you see who you're cutting?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's Sophia." But she wasn't my Sophia in that moment, And so it did teach her, if my mother cut me, so will the world. And so she understands that. I remember coming home after that audition, and we went ahead and kept her, and I was putting her to sleep. And Sophie was always one that everything starts to come out when she starts to get sleepy. So, I would sit there and, in the bed with her, and she just starts talking. And her, she looked up at me and she goes, "Mommy, I don't think you think I can do this." And I'm like, "Oh no, so Mommy thinks you can do anything." And she said, "Well, that's not what you said in the studio."
That's not what I heard.
Right. And I was like, "Ooh, okay." And I was like, yeah, those were two separate mommies. This was Mommy, the choreographer, who has to get a job done. Mommy knows in her heart, that you can do it. And she kind of looked at me like, mm-hmm.
So as a woman of fire that you are, your inspiration has come from where? Like, who has inspired you to be the woman that you are today?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. But my mom, especially, my mother is very, she's tough as nails. She's tough as nails. I have my endurance. I have my resilience from Jackie Clarke. I get my my love for for fun, and they call me Lucille Ball after my Aunt Renee. And my grandmother, that mouth, that tell it like it is Savella Murray. So those are the women who really shaped me.
I want to ask you, how about your community? How has that embarked and impacted your community?
It was the art community in Joliet. Joliet has a huge, strong history of their band and their music programs being one of the best in the States.
That's amazing. That's beautiful.
No, it's beautiful.
And I know we're about women, but I know that you did liturgical dancing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that comes from your father.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did that relate to the arts, being a preacher's kid, if I may say so myself?
Yes, you sure can. I was a PK. I still am a PK. That was my first company, and I never thought of it that way, to be honest with you. I just came home my junior year of college, and I didn't have money to go to a summer program. We just didn't have it at that time. And so I thought, okay, I'm stuck here in Joliet. Sorry, Joliet, but stuck here in this small town. I gotta dance. I have to do something. I can't sit here and just work at Sears, and I just can't do it. That's just not in me. I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna go crazy. And not spirit, I know exactly what it is, told me, do a show, do your own summer program. And I thought, well, summer program. So what I did, I printed out flyers. One Sunday, I went to every church in Joliet, put the flyers on the cars, and announced that I was going to have, it was Kara Hala, the Dance of Praise Summer Dance Workshop. And that's what I called it. And
what did you call it? Say it again.
Kara Hala means the dance of praise.
Kara Hala.
I had 10 girls, and I thought, well, this is who we'll work with. And we had our first show, and it was absolutely incredible. So the second and the third year, it just started growing. That was my first company. And then I created another company called Seasons, where I worked with the dancers from New Faith.
And now you are a phenomenal, not only choreographer, phenomenal inspiration to so many Black women who have a voice, who stand for change and implementing all of these new different things to make a better space, a better world for the arts with an artistic expression. I mean, you're doing a wonderful job. I know it's not easy. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I was in a space of not really truly understanding who I was supposed to be or what I was supposed to be doing, not truly. I just knew I wanted to dance and I wanted to follow, but I didn't really understand the true power of my leadership.
Yes.
And that this was actually something that I could be proud of. I never allowed myself to be proud. My grandmother always said, your attitude will make you ugly. So we grew up very much trying to dumb ourselves and making everyone else's shoulders in the room be okay, so that they wouldn't think that we thought we were better than, because we did come with some talent, but of course, if that makes you feel some kind of way, it's my job to make you feel better about it. Well, I don't feel that way anymore. I'm 48 now. It only took 20 something years to get there. But in that space in my 20s, I didn't want anyone to feel a certain way about my accomplishment or what I felt good about. I grew up as a classical ballerina, and that's all I knew. But that's very rare for a woman of color. And we're not always welcomed. I'm trying to break into a technique or a form that was not created in my form or for me. And so I had a wonderful teacher in Claudette Soltis, there in Joliet. And she did sit me down before I went to Butler and told me, I'm going to tell you, they don't want you there, but I've taught you well. And so every ballet class I went into, I was never spoken to. I was never acknowledged as if I, good, bad, nothing. But you know what? You know what I know, Quasi? If I say, tendu. So you don't have to tell me. So I would figure out, I would get the corrections and hear the corrections that they were giving other girls, and I would apply them to my body. And that's how I grew. So that's my learning pattern. Mm-hmm.
For 4 years, nobody was 4 years.
Well, 2, because it was my junior year that Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater came to Butler University. And they taught us master classes. And it was Troy Powell came and taught us a class and taught the yellow section of Revelations, Rock of My Soul.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, baby, you ain't done nothing but a thing here. I've been watching this since I was 2. And so he taught it to us. And then I remember looking up, and he points at me and he points at another guy named James. And he was like, come here, and told the class, now watch, and made us demonstrate. And at that point, we had a huge window. All my professors were standing there watching the class, happened to be watching our class. And I said, here we go. This is it. And when I tell you, I tried to knock the socks off this guy, because I was like, you don't understand. This is where I'm supposed to go. I know this much. I don't care what y'all say. I have been going and watching Cry and Revelations after every time I left the ballet class, because I felt like crap because nobody saw me. So I had to go look for someone that looked like me to say it's okay to keep going. So as I watched Donna Wood and Cry, I'm like, that's okay, because that's what I'm going to be doing. That's what I'm going to be doing. So I don't need to just get your tools, Nick, get your tools. So to have him standing in front of me, someone who I've been watching on stage all these years and teaching me this and then allowing me space to do it.
Wow.
And after that, all of a sudden I was getting solos. I was getting, doing Spanish and Swan Lake, that solo. I was doing, Arabian and Nutcracker. All of a sudden my world opened up. Now I'm getting awards, Butler Ballet, outstanding performer. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what I've been doing differently. This
is the world, right? This is the world. Now all of a sudden they see you, and you have deserved the place that you're in right now, Miss Nicole Clarke Springer. Like whole full name, Nicole Clarke Springer. You deserve it. And so my question to you next is, do you feel that as an artistic director, and being a female artistic director, is there a way or a different approach? Or do you speak with a different voice? How would you share that experience with another artistic director as a female?
It's so funny. You know that there's Cleo Parker Robinson out there, and I've, and Joan Myers Brown and Debbie Blunt, all those powerful Fab Fives that are out there, and they didn't take any crap. And I see why now. Everyone's like, oh, they're such hard hitters. But the thing is, I will have to be honest, there is a different reaction when, just like when your husband speaks to the kids, and then you say clean up, and they're like, okay, yeah. But he says get the garbage, and everybody scrambles.
Yes.
It's the same. Yes. It's the same when you first come in. It is. I'm not gonna lie. It is. Because when they see you one way, it's like, okay, but now she's the boss. And it's like there's a push and there's an energy, and they don't know why. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, I'm the same person as Nick. Look, they're like, you're artistic director now. Now we gotta, and my fight, the Nicole, the victorious, as my name means, that person can come out when she feels pushed, and has. And has to remind people. And I've never said, I promise to God, my title so many times that I had in the last class. And I'm not going to do it anymore, because I've always been a person of my power, just me being in the room. You should know who I am. And that worked for a while, but then it began to be challenged in such a way that, I was getting coaching from other women, like, you need to remind them. Yeah. Ann Williams remind them, whose company this is. And I was like, oh, really? And they're like, yeah. So I was like, okay. But I don't think I want to have that voice all the time. I'm willing to use it, you know, and remind people it's a two-way street, and you have to take care of me, and you can't take advantage of the fact that I am a woman and doubt my ability. You do have to hold your ground and hold your voice. What I am learning, Flo, is that I don't have to beat everyone up to do that, though, because I am such a fighter. I will take the first punch and sting you hard before I allow you to get it out your mouth, because I can read your energy. I can create the peace, the energy, you know, the calmness in the studio, the work ethic that needs to happen. I create all that I'm looking for, and not do it because I want it, not because I'm driven by someone else's emotions or their thought process, you know, and now I have to bring that. No, I can set the standard and still be able to have peace and be creative in my own way. And that's what I'm determined to do as artistic director. So maybe that's the flip of the voice that I get to decide.
And that is the flip. And with everything that you've learned in your past with your mother, your grandmother, Aunt Renee, put all of that and create the gumbo, right?
Right.
Create that gumbo that holds the path to your future. I think that's beautiful. I think that's important, because I think sometimes we come into a certain place or a certain position and we realize that it's not about, you know, what you came in there with. It's about how you sustain your sustainability, how you maintain, how you grow from where you are. Yeah. So I think kudos. Right, kudos.
Learning who to bring down stage, you know.
Yes.
Who do I want to come center first? You know, is it gonna be Nikki the fighter, or is it Nikki the mother, the nurturer? I get to decide, you know, and cast my ballot. Who comes down stage for this solo? So,
and to note that they all have a place.
Mm-hmm.
They all have a place.
They all have merit.
Yes. Oh my goodness, this has been so great. Yeah. I want to ask you a question about 3 words that would fully describe who you are as a person.
I am honest. Yes. And I have to add on an adjective, brutally honest. I am spiritual. And I am I'm loving. I am
honest, spiritual, and loving. Mm-hmm. I think that describes you to a T. Mm-hmm. We asked you for 3 flowers that best represented you.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is correlate that to your chakra.
Okay.
And how it relates to your chakra. You said poinsettias. It's part of the root. That's like the first, the foundation. And I think that everything that you've been stating talks about the foundation and how you uphold your foundation. Without a doubt, you are working through, from, and towards your foundation. And lilac. Now, why did you pick lilac? I want to say that.
Honestly, because it was the closest thing to an African violet. The purple.
Well,
which I love.
It is purple. Mm-hmm. And you know, on the chakra, it is the third eye. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yes.
But I'm always talking about it in studio. That's interesting. That is so funny. I didn't know that.
It is your third eye.
Always refer to your third eye. Wow.
Yep. And you always talk from your third eye. You always talk about that. So white lily is your third flower, and that's the deep violet. So, which is kind of in the same family, right?
Yeah.
It's the deep violet, which is the crown, which is your crown chakra. So we have the root. So you have the top and the bottom. The root, which is the top, the purple, which is the third eye, which is lilac, I should say. And then white lily is the deep violet, your crown chakra. Cool. So in essence, you have embodied the entire, somehow, some way you're going through. So, and I think that's a deep representation of who you are. Okay, so I noticed that you wrote, "My trials are others' triumphs." Mm-hmm. You wrote that in our questionnaire. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate a little bit about that? And it doesn't have to be long, but I say that because I think it's important that people understand that failure is almost the beginning of your success. Mm-hmm. Those people that think, "Oh, I can't fail, I can't mess up." Actually, that is when you begin to flourish, because that is part of the process that allows you to understand what not to do so you can figure out what to do.
Yep. We can either hang our heads low for it because they, where people want to keep you back there.
Yeah.
Or we can say, you know what, you're exactly right. As the Bible says, agree with thy adversary.
Yeah.
So you're right. that did happen. I did do, but guess what? Let me show you what God does do and what
Come
He
on
will do.
I understand
You know,
that.
and
Yes.
so when you start getting out of it, your trials become someone else's triumphs. Because then they go, you know what? If the Clarks can go through that and still be pulled up, I got it. You know, so our test becomes other people's testimonies. That's been the whole thing, is that we have gone through some stuff, but we have really come out, and God is continuously, the universe is continuously looking after me, and I can't complain about that.
No,
I can't.
No, we are blessed.
Triumphs, you know.
So we are blessed for all your trials. It has made you who you are today. But if there was one message that you would give, what would you say?
I want to remind us that, as it says, we are more than conquerors. We are more than conquerors. So as we sit in our spaces and we have to do these things, I miss you so much, but have this box here, you know, go through the things financially, emotionally, you know, as we try and leave our homes and we're not sure if, you know, our loved ones are going to come back to us. We just have to remember we are more than conquerors.
I thank you, my goodness. Okay, we call this segment Tag It Up. So if you had a tag, what would your graffiti tag be?
I don't even know if it's cool, but what keeps coming to me? I mean,
you said I don't know if it's cool.
Oh, well, what came to mind was Dennis, my husband, who's a football coach at Northwestern, calls me blue chip.
Sweet.
Yes, I'm his blue chip. I'm the one that you need to recruit. The one that's the top choice. That's the main recruit. So I'm the blue chip. So
I like
blue
it.
Chip in you know, deeply rooted. I hope they feel the same way.
I like it. That
blue chip
is so dope. I like that. I would have never thought that.
No.
So I thank you, Miss Nicole Clarke Springer.
Thank you.
I love you so very, very much. Thank you for participating in the Women of Fiyah. And I have this platform just so that people can kind of get the insight of people that I need to have an impact on not only myself, but our community, and especially these Black women. So I thank you. I adore you.
Thank you. You are a fantastic being. Phenomenal human being. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Flo.
Thank you. How you know Miss Flo and how you first met Miss Flo?
I was dancing professionally and teaching, you know, so that I can pay my bills, and started teaching at Studio One Dance Theater. And I remember this short girl comes in, and you were leaving the studio, and you had this huge smile on your face. I'm like, well, who is this? I keep coming through. And I think we had like a brief conversation. We just see each other in passing. But you invited me to a party at your house in Evanston. And I was like, this is my, again, I told you, you were like my Aunt May. And she, seriously, she had just literally passed. And I was like, oh my gosh, she reminds me of Aunt Manny. And I just was like, okay, I have to be her friend. She's just too much. And she's just loving and kind. And that party was phenomenal. But we had a ball, and it was the same energy that I grew up with. And I was like, okay, this is good peeps.
Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, and a special thank you to Nicole Clarke Springer, a woman creating a seat at the table, unapologetically and creatively with grace. Nicole Clarke Springer, the artistic director of Deeply Rooted Theater, sat in and had a chance to talk and share about her family, her foundation, and what makes her a woman of fire. So grateful for her to even give us the inside of what inspires her and how she's inspiring others. She's continuing to break down the barriers of a male-dominated industry in the performing arts. Kudos, Miss Nikki Clarke Springer. Thank you so much, a dear friend to me. I love you for everything that you're able to share on this and everything that you continue to do in the arts. So thank you again for tuning in to Feed's Women of Fiyah. See you until next time.
Everybody say flow fire, flow fire.